Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. We have quite a few different cards to talk about today that are kind of from all over the place. Of course, the big thing coming up is the sneak peek for Burst of Destiny coming up this weekend, but we actually do have Synchro Storm, that side set, coming out as well. Of course, with these new cards will come some pretty significant changes to the meta, so quite a few different things for us to take a look at today, all across the board. Let's just get right into it. Okay, so the first card we're going to look at here is Baron de Fleur, which is actually not from Burst of Destiny, but rather Legendary Duelist Synchro Storm. This is a generic level 10 Synchro monster that really is like a mini Dragoon. It lets you pop a card on the field once per turn, as well as provide a negate, so a really great card to end boards on. Very notably, this is a key card for Sword Soul decks, which I think are going to be tier 1 going into the next couple of formats, but it's also used in other Synchro strategies as well. Now, the set is just hitting its official release, but we're actually seeing this card at $95 a piece on TCG Player, and it's actually moving at that price, which is honestly kind of insane to me. As amazing as this card is, it is just a one of, so it's not like people need to go and pick up multiple copies of the card. However, what we do have to keep in mind is that this is basically the only new card from Synchro Storm that's really worth picking up. There are some other interesting cards, like the Lyrilusk stuff could actually make Lyrilusk pretty threatening, but in terms of like top tier meta relevance, I think Baron de Fleur is the only card that everyone's really going to be after. Now that being said, Baron is still pretty overpriced, and in my opinion, it should drop to around $50 to $60 within the next couple of weeks as people tear open packs, but even then I'd expect some people to be a bit reluctant to move their copies at that price. There's just not a ton of value elsewhere in the set, aside from the Ghost Rare, of course, that people who are tearing open cases of the set will be able to make their money back from. Next up, we'll briefly touch on Rise of the Mega Monarch once again. So we talked about this card a month or two ago when people realized that this card was going to be a key card played in the Fleur strategy, since the deck basically revolves all around normal summoning, and you can even do that during your opponent's turn. People looked at Mega Ryza because you could tribute summon it with wind monsters during your opponent's turn, and it became an additional form of interruption. The card is played at either 1 or 2, but it's definitely something that you'll need to run if you're playing the Fleur. Unfortunately, however, the card only has 2 printings, the original secret rare from Duelist Alliance and the reprint from that year's Megatins. It's pretty funny that this card is actually expensive now. I remember before, this card was arguably the worst thing you could pull back when the set came out, because you could have pulled something like a Dante or something way cooler. Mega Ryza was literally a $2 card. Now, however, either version of Mega Ryza is going to cost you a whole $38 to $40, as both of its printings are quite old at this point. So I don't know for sure if Fleur are going to be a top tier deck here in the TCG. The deck seems to be really strong in theory, but also apparently is underperforming over in the OCG. However, I do think that a lot of people are going to want to pick it up and try it out, since I don't think the deck will be that expensive, especially compared to something like Sword Soul. That being said though, if all of the new stuff is cheap, then it makes sense that Mega Ryza would be more expensive, as more and more people want to try to put the deck together and eat up the supply of this card that's available. I hope that this card does get reprinted in either Brothers of Legend or Maximum Gold, but realistically I could see this card not getting reprinted and staying pretty expensive until a few months into 2022. Speaking of the Fleur, pulling the rug is a tech that I think people are looking at as a side deck card to play specifically against the Fleur strategy. This is a pretty simple counter trap card. When your opponent normal summons a monster and activates its effect, you negate the effect and destroy that monster. This is obviously pretty effective against the Fleur since the entire deck relies on normal summoning and doesn't really special summon at all. However, I don't think that this is a card that's actually going to see much play and is just being hyped for kind of no reason. I feel like it would only be effective against the Fleur deck and not against anything else, and even then I would rather play other cards that could also be useful in other matchups. Of course, this hasn't stopped pulling the rug from seeing several buyouts. The ultimate rares from Strike of Neos are up by quite a bit, with the unlimiteds at $25 each and the ulti first eds at $40. Now the rares from Strike of Neos are up to $5 as well, and if you care enough to tell the difference, the very similar looking rares from Champion Pack are up to $10 each as well. Overall, I would say that this card is a definite sell. I don't think it's an especially great meta call, and there are a lot of better alternative side deck cards available. Next up, Creation Resonator is a pretty interesting card I didn't think I would be talking about anytime soon. Quick shout out here to Sebastian Wernick, who did mention this card in the comment section from last week's Market Watch. Now, quick disclaimer here, I don't know what deck exactly it is. that's using this card. This card has a pretty simple effect. If you have a level 8 or higher Synchro monster on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand for free. So right off the bat, I'm assuming something like Sword Soul or Virtual World that could be able to use this card. Virtual World would make sense since it's also a level 3 and could synergize with the rest of the deck. However, I also believe that this card is up because of Cupid Pitch, which is coming out in Burst of Destiny. That's a level 4 generic Synchro monster that if it's used as a Synchro material, you can search your deck for a monster with 600 defense, which Creation Resonator happens to be. Unfortunately, Cupid Pitch is a level 4, so I don't really see that being the case in Virtual World or Sword Soul since I don't think they go into synchros of that level, so maybe in something like Synchrons or something like that. Anyways, the card has only 2 low rarity printings, no holo version. The rare, which came out first, is from Starstrike Blast, which is a set that's infamous for being hard to find, and then the common comes from Legendary Collection 5Ds, a set that wasn't very high in demand, so not a lot of it got opened. Now, believe it or not, this card is $17 for either the common or the rare, with very few quantities available on the market, so if you happen to have this card sitting around in your bulk somewhere, definitely go dig it up and sell it. Also, if you do know exactly what deck it is that's abusing this card that's making it go up, make sure you let me know in the comments section down below. Okay, so this is a pretty interesting card. Apparently, Arch Nemesis Protos is a tech that might see some play in the Sword Soul strategy since it can actually be searched out as a worm. This card and the Shadows have always been pretty decent in theory, but they never actually ended up seeing play in anything, so maybe the fact that they're searchable in Sword Soul could be something that drives this card to see some meta relevance. Anyways, Protos is easy enough to summon as you can banish 3 monsters with different attributes from your field or graveyard to special summon it. Then, you declare an attribute of a monster on the field, destroy all monsters of that attribute, and then lock both players out of that attribute until the end of your opponent's next turn. Now the interesting thing is, this includes itself, so you can declare Dark, and then against decks like Phantom Knights or Dragon Link, this card effectively shuts them out. Also, Protos just happens to have an effect that protects itself from being destroyed by card effects, so it actually won't even be destroyed, and you could do it again the following turn if you wanted to. So this card was featured by the DB Grinder. He actually had this card shown as a discussion post rather than a video. I think back when he showed it yesterday, it was only $8 or so. Now, however, the card is double that up at $15 a piece on TCG Player. This card has just the 1 printing from Eternity Code, but notably it was omitted from the tins, which is a big part of why it has jumped up in price as high as it has. I feel like this card would be just a one-of side deck card, maybe for Sword Soul if you are running it. So if you want to play Sword Souls and use this card, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world if you picked up just a single copy of it just in case. But if you have extra copies of this card, I would definitely look at offloading them for now while there's some early hype around it. So this is a card I actually haven't looked at for a while. It is Infernal Knight Renault. So ever since Smoke Grenade was banned, I think people haven't given too much thought to the Infernal Knight cards. They lost the strongest play they had, and the deck just became like another sort of average combo deck. Well, it actually turns out that Renault is a card that might see play in some Phantom Knight strategies. I don't know why I keep on forgetting this, but the Phantom Knight cards are actually warriors, so they are able to go into Isolde. Isolde can then summon out an extender from the deck, and Renault is a great one being a level 1 monster, so you don't have to play too many equipped spell cards. Also, if you play Living Fossil, Renault is able to add the Living Fossil that you dumped to your graveyard back to your hand right away, and Living Fossil is effectively another extender as well, so you can really keep your plays going, and as far as bricks go, they aren't too bad. So yeah, really cool tech, though I can't say for sure if this is the way that all Phantom Knight decks are going to look going forward. I think that the DB Grinder showed off a combo on his channel, and that might be a contributing factor to this card's price spike, where it's all the way up at $25 a piece on TCG Player at the moment. However, if we do look at the OCG, I think that Phantom Knights typically play with the Brave Token engine instead. Anyways, Renault has just the 1 printing from Toon Chaos, which came out right in the middle of 2020. It has been a year and a few months since this card's release, so it wouldn't surprise me to see this card in either Brothers of Legend or Maximum Gold, though it might be arguably too soon for a reprint as well. If you're interested in playing Phantom Knights this format, definitely do a bit of research, see if you want to play with the Warrior engine or the Brave Token engine or maybe even the Dragoon engine, and decide from there which cards are worthwhile for you to pick up. Alright, now this card has probably seen like 30 price spikes over the course of its lifetime. It is Galaxy Soldier. So Galaxy Soldier is a really simple card, right? You can discard a light monster to special summon this card from your hand, then search for another copy of itself, and then as long as you have another light monster, you can summon out the second copy. As a level 5 monster, you can use 2 copies of this card to make Cyber Dragon Nova, who turns into Cyber Dragon Infinity. So this is a combo that doesn't burn your normal summon and can get you access to a really free negation. Now, this card wasn't seeing a ton of play before. I believe technically it's still not meta relevant per se. However, this card is something that's seeing a bit of play in the Cyber Dark deck, a bit more of a rogue strategy, but one that a decent amount of people are looking into because of the new Cyber Dark structure deck that just came out a week or two ago. I think that in Team Samurai X1's deck profile, he talked about and ran this card, and so have several other lists that I've seen. However, Galaxy Soldier is actually an annoyingly difficult card to find, despite having multiple reprints. The original secret rares from World Superstars are $30 each, but the card has 2 ultra rare reprints from Battles of Legend Light's Revenge and Dual Power. However, each of those was short prints, and now even those ultra rare reprints are a whole $25 each. The card is definitely in need of another reprint that will make the card much more accessible and much more affordable, though at this point I don't know when exactly that reprint is going to come. Hopefully, it'll be in Maximum Gold Eldorado, which, as long as it doesn't short print yet again, should bring this card's price way down. So one last card that I briefly want to mention here is Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, a card that I actually think is kind of underpriced at the moment. I believe Ghost Ogre has the potential to be a really useful hand trap going into the next format, and I think that because of that, it's worth looking at picking up some extra copies now. Ghost Ogre isn't seeing a ton of play right now, as hand traps like Ghost Bell are better. However, Ghost Ogre is useful against Sword Souls when they come out, where you can destroy whatever monster they summon that generates a token, and by destroying that monster, they're stuck with a token that locks them into Synchro summoning. They can't turn it into a Link Spider or anything like that, so they have to find a way to use another extender to go into a Synchro play. Also, against the Flowanderees, the field spell is how the deck plays around getting their first monster hit by Valor or Impermanence, but having either of those hand traps backed up with Ghost Ogre to hit the field spell and prevent them from getting that additional normal summon could effectively end their turn. So yeah, I'm thinking that Ghost Ogre might be a really solid card next format, and with the cheaper prints like the Ultras and Gold Rares at only $2 to $3 each right now, I think they might be worth grabbing and holding on to. If you compare it to something like Ghost Bell, which has seen similar reprints, those are anywhere from $7 to $8 now with how much play they are seeing, so I could definitely see Ghost Ogres hitting at least $5 each. Also worth noting is that the ultimate rares are currently about $160. I think they could go up to around $200 each, maybe more if the card starts to see more meta play as well. This card is of course pretty iconic, being one of the first hand traps that came out of all the Ghost Girls. So yeah, obviously this isn't a guarantee. Do your own due diligence before deciding to pick up any extra copies of this card, but I feel like it's definitely something that's worth looking into. Alright guys, that is it for today's episode. Hopefully you guys all pull really well at Sneak Peek. I'm really excited for Burst of Destiny. I just don't know what deck I should play. But yeah, between that and Synchro Storm, and then Maximum Gold Eldorado coming out really soon after in just the middle of November, we have a lot of really cool releases right around the corner. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button for me. Let me know. Also, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards we talked about today and what other cards are trending on the market so I can cover them in a future episode. Also, if you haven't already, make sure that you hit that subscribe button for all of the latest and greatest content from both Tombox and myself here on the channel. And until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.